We're live. Hello. Uh, so this is the first time we've used YouTube Live and also streaming to Twitter. So thank you for joining us if you are. We have a few guests here today, so I'll go through those in a few seconds. We also have Katy's just joined there. Fantastic. Thanks for joining. We have the Cloud Management Community team here, and we also have Joy and Katy. So thanks for joining. We are just going to go straight over to the event, I think. Bear with me a few seconds while I remember how to turn that on. Okay, so firstly, we've got two fantastic speakers here today. So you've probably heard of them, but they are both MVPs, which is great. So if you're watching on Twitter or YouTube, please send any comments or questions in the chat. We can respond to these comments and questions in both Twitter and YouTube when we're running in ultra low latency. So we should be able to get back to you fairly quickly. There's probably a bit of a apparently the video might be less good because we're running an ultra low latency, but this is the first time we've tried YouTube and Twitter, so we'll see how that goes. And LinkedIn, by the way, if you're watching on Anne's LinkedIn page. So to the agenda. We have Joy just here on the right of the screen there, and he is going to be talking about improving Hybrid Autopilot. And that sort of came about essentially because I personally hate Hybrid Autopilot, and so does the rest of the world. But Joy has come up with a fantastic solution, we think. He thinks, certainly, so he's going to go through that with us in a few minutes' time. Firstly, I obviously need to say thank you to PolicyPack for sponsoring this event. They're a modern desktop management platform that simplify management, security, and automation by extending the capabilities of Config Manager and Intune, so they don't just replace Config Manager and Intune, you can use them with Config Manager and Intune. So certainly check out PolicyPack.com if you're interested in that. Otherwise, we're just going to go straight into the rest of the agenda. So we've got a raffle and a prize draw for those who register or pre-registered for the event on our website. We've entered you into a prize draw, and we'll run that live so you can see what happens there. And Andy will go through the prizes that we've got available. Thank you, Andy. And then we've got Katy Nicholson, who also is MVP, recently MVP actually. Congratulations. Who's going to cover Endpoint Analytics, which is really good. After that, we have a quiz, the usual quiz that we do at the end of our Teams events, if you've ever been on one of our Teams events in the past. And then afterwards, we have the Q&A and the close and the thank you for attending. So yeah, that's it. If you've got any questions, please stick them in chat. And it's wonderful to have you all here. So let's just jump straight into Joy. Joy, do you have a screen that you want to share?
Yes, sure. So just give me a moment here.
No worries. I understand it's very early in the morning where you are, Joy. So thank you for joining us. Maybe early in the morning. I think you said it was very late at night, almost midnight. So thanks for coming along.
Sure. So not an issue, and also you mentioned me that we have two fantastic speakers here on the call, but I wouldn't consider myself as one because this is the first time that I would be doing such an event.
Well, thanks for making us your first. Obviously, we've got a very happy to help team here, and everyone on YouTube and Twitter will be supporting you. So again, if there are any questions or if you've got any comments or feedback, please stick them in chat. We can see them and respond to them. And surely Joy is going to do a fantastic job of this.
Yep. So my topic today is about improving the end user experience for the Windows Autopilot Hybrid Azure AD join. We know that we don't love Hybrid Azure AD join for sure. It's a lot of pain to support. It's not only a pain to configure, but it's also a pain for the daily operations as well. And the missing Azure AD PRT is surely one of the reasons that can like take away the sleep for the support professionals, to be honest. So based on that, but still like even we know that we have alternatives like uh, uh, for organizations who are trying to move away to the modern from the traditional management system. They sometimes find the hybrid Azure AD join state as fascinating, but that's a problem. But again, there are some valid reasons like applications which requires LDAP and things like that. They don't work with the cloud only scenarios. For those particular applications and things like that, they have to go with the hybrid Azure AD join till those applications are reconfigured to work in the cloud only scenario. So while working on one such project, it was found that the delay that we get to see with the hybrid Azure AD join was really like too much to disrupt the, I would say, for a bad end user experience for the device provisioning. So from there on, the solution came to start, or it started basically. But before I get to that, so I would want to talk about the problem with the hybrid Azure AD join. uh, we all would know that uh, is my screen still like there?
Oh, it switched to you actually. That's interesting.
Okay. Yeah,
Sorry,
because I
it
saw it
is still
changing.
there. Yeah, it
Okay.
is still there. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So uh, I would be first talking about the problem with the Autopilot Hybrid Azure AD join, and it's important to note that whatever that I will be talking about is for a managed domain environment, because for a federated domain, it's a complete different story. So we have the usual components up here, which is the Windows Autopilot service, the Azure Active Directory, our Intune, the on-premises Active Directory infrastructure that is synced to the Azure with the Azure AD Connect. And also we have a device here on the screen that you can see on the left bottom corner. Consider this as a new device that end user would be provisioning. So when the device is taken out of the box, connected to the network, it will first try to the autopilot check that we all know. The autopilot check is dependent on the autopilot registration for the device, which creates a AADJ device object in the Azure AD, to which the autopilot profile is deployed. So the autopilot profile is not actually deployed to the device, but to the dynamic group that we create using the ZTD ID or the other autopilot identifiers for the device. Provided that the autopilot check is success, like the device is able to connect to the endpoints, the profile is downloaded for the device. It applies the bitmap configurations to drive the next phases of the out of box experience setup, which then brings us to the branded sign in page for the organization. The end user at this screen would probably do the sign in, not probably, obviously will do the sign in, which gets the device the access token, and this access token provides the device with the MDM discovery URL, which helps it to find the MDM endpoint for the environment. It moves forward while we see that the screen there is please wait while we say we are setting up your device. It's during this phase that the device will reach out to Intune requesting for the offline domain join blob, and Intune via the Intune AAD connector or the Intune Active Directory connector. It will go ahead and create the device object in the Active Directory in the OU that has the delegated permissions. This device object that Intune just created using that connector on the Active Directory is not subjected to the AAD Connect sync unless it has the required attribute set. But we will get back to this point later on. As the device object gets created in the AD, Intune sends the ODJ blob back to the device, where it applies the ODJ blob, and we see a short reboot. The device reboots to apply the ODJ blob and then moves forward to the ESP, where it tracks the device targeted policies from Intune. Uh, in the managed domain environment with hybrid Azure AD join, we know that in the ESP phase, we will only get the two ESPs, that is the device preparation and the device setup. Once the device setup phase is complete, the device will come up to the Windows login screen before moving on to the user part, but the user part is generally skipped. Uh, because of the missing Azure AD PRT that we will talk about, but it proceeds to the next screen, which is the Windows login, and this login is basically to the domain. So if we are doing the hybrid Azure AD join from the internet, we need a VPN solution to have the line of sight to the domain controller. The problem with the hybrid Azure AD join provisioning in a managed domain environment starts from here, that when the user is performing this Windows login on the device for the first time, at this point, if the Azure AD Connect has not synced the device object to Azure, then the device has no identity in Azure AD as of yet. So this login wouldn't fetch the device with the Azure AD PRT. So when the user gets to the desktop, there is no Azure AD PRT on the device, which really makes the device not production ready, I would say, because OneDrive sync won't start, BitLocker encryption won't start. You do not have connectivity to your M365 services at this point, and that is really a bad end user experience, because even though the device has taken the user to the uh, desktop and you have the applications which were targeted to the device installed on the device, you cannot really do anything with the device at this point. It will give up errors. So this is the problem in the managed domain environment, and that is because of that Azure AD Connect thing. So in the next slide that I have, I will be talking about why there is that delay in there, because when Intune goes ahead and creates the object in the Active Directory, as I said, the device is not subjected to the Azure AD Connect sync instantly, because the Azure AD Connect waits till the user certificate property of the device object in the AD is updated. Now, this is in the base configuration where the AD Connect will wait for the device object to have the user certificate property updated. But in environments where I have worked, like if you have AD Connect sync set up based on like attribute filters, where you need a particular attribute of the device updated to make it eligible for the sync, then that also needs to happen for the device to be synced to Azure. But if we talk about the base config only, like no other modifications to the environment, how this device gets eligible for the AD Connect sync is that the object that Intune created will uh, query the Active Directory for the AAD tenant info, that is from the service connection point that gets configured during the AAD Connect setup. Active Directory will reply back to the device object the AAD tenant info, using which the device will create a self-signed certificate and update the user certificate property of itself. At this point, the device object becomes eligible for the AAD Connect sync, which will sync the device in the next sync cycle. We know that the default sync cycle is 30 minutes, but environments, some organizations have a different interval for the AAD Connect sync. So, if it is more than 30 minutes, you are introducing more delay to this process. Only when this device object gets synced to Azure AD is when we get the hybrid Azure AD device object in the Azure Active Directory. And after this, the automatic registration event happens. The device gets the AD device certificate from Azure. And on the next user sign in event is when the device gets the Azure AD PRT. So if we see, This entire process, like this is basically the backend process for the hybrid Azure AD join in a managed domain environment. Again, like I would say, this is for a managed domain environment, because if it was a federated domain, then this entire process would be taken care of by the ADFS services during the Windows login. But
Can I just check, Joy? Sorry for my own stupid questions here, but when you say managed domain, is that sort of the domain that is synchronized via Azure AD Connect?
yes, and also, like, if you do not have federation services running,
Okay. So if you had ADFS, this would be
this would be
this
different.
different,
There
more
is no
complicated,
delay.
okay, better.
Yeah, with ADFS it's better because there is no delay, because in this environment, if you see, when you are not using the federation services, because not all the organizations are federated, but when if you do not have this, then the sync of this on premises device object to Azure Active Directory is basically dependent on the AAD connect, and the device object needs to meet all the criterias of how the AAD connect sync is configured in order to become eligible for the sync, right? But in case of ADFS, if you are configuring the WS trust points and during the login event, ADFS will itself go ahead and create the uh, device object in Azure. So that's more instantaneous than this one, but
Sure. Yeah.
yeah. So this process, as I say, hybrid autopilot in a managed domain environment, Intune and the Windows Autopilot service only takes care of getting the device joined to the domain. Now, whatever happened, like how the device is actually becoming a hybrid Azure AD joined device, is totally dependent on the AAD Connect sync that has basically no relations with Intune or Autopilot in the whole thing. So now, if we have a better understanding of how the hybrid Azure AD device object gets created on Azure, let's get back to the same problem that we had earlier. So this is basically the same scenario that I showed in slide one, where the user is getting to the Windows login to the domain. uh, I know, like, if the AD Connect sync has not happened, this login would not get me or get the device the Azure AD PRT. So instead, what I did in the like, what to say, what I did in the implementation was add an additional step to this entire process, which is a custom script which again locks the device back to the out of box experience setup, like, but it's actually not a Windows out of box experience screen. It's a fake screen basically, which is masking the desktop. It prevents the user from getting to the desktop, because while the device is in this screen, it will monitor the backend hybrid Azure AD joint process, and once it identifies that the sync has happened and the hybrid Azure AD device object in has been created in Azure, it restarts the device to get the user back to the login screen. So when the user now logs in and gets to the desktop, this sign in gets the device the Azure AD PRT. So the device is now fully production ready. Your OneDrive sync works, your BitLocker encryption works, all the other M365 service communication works, and, like, even though if it is taking a bit of time in the step that I added in, it results out to a fairly good end user experience. And what uh, I have seen, it nearly reduces approximately 15 to 20% of support tickets for the device provisionings, where the user calls up the support help desk stating that they can do this, they can do that, and the reason of all of that is the missing Azure AD So that's the whole point. Now, If I have to show you, I do not have a live VM to show you how it works all, but I do have a video of it, so I would like to share that with you. Just give me a minute here.
That sounds good. I mean, my only comment on this, if you just take a look at that screen,
Mhm.
apart from the custom bit you've added to the right there, that is already a very complicated process that, in my head, autopilot was
Mhm.
sort of, it's meant to sound easy, meant to sound seamless and quick and simple. And the things you've just described there, obviously that kind of stuff needs to happen. But I never,
Mhm.
when I'm talking to customers, I never think of all those different steps that it needs to go through and how it can fail in so many different ways.
Yeah, so this is basically entirely on the engineering part of the solution. So for the end user experience, you would be seeing like how it goes. Like that is quite fairly simple, but how it all works together in the piece is like it's complicated, I would say.
Yeah,
Like
agreed.
Azure Ready Join, you do the cloud only scenario any day is far better than doing hybrid Azure Ready Join. But then there are customers who need to do hybrid Azure Ready Join because of their legacy dependencies. So
Yeah, and
that is how I would term that.
I find that there are a lot of customers who I speak to personally who will try hybrid join by default because they think it's easier. And this, I think, that
That's
is the thing we need to we as a community and as IT pros need to try and instill that into into these customers who think it's easier to do hybrid because it clearly isn't.
yes. So mostly when we work in this transition and transformation projects for the digital workplace, uh, that is quite right that the current mode of operation, that is the traditional device management, when they try move to the cloud based solution, um, they always try to go the hybrid way in the uh, I would say like the IMO or the intermediate mode of operation before going cloud only with the future mode of operation. So many try to use this as a stopgap, but then get stuck in it, because obviously if you're doing a device provisioning, you are handing out a new device, the device won't be refreshed until like 3 or 4 years depending on the device refresh cycle that you are having, and you won't be going cloud only very soon. But yeah, if you are determined, as a customer, if you are determined to adopt to the cloud or the modern management, then obviously the Azure ADWay is the one that any IT pro should advocate for. Hybrid Azure AD join state is only for limited cases, because other than that LDAP thing that I talked, and there are a few other pointers which don't work in the cloud only scenarios, uh, like the NPS authentication with Radius won't work with AAD join thing. So if you have that, then you need to go with the hybrid Azure AD join, because for that a cloud only device don't have a device object in Active Directory to pass through that authentication. Things like that, if you have, you the customers try to go with the hybrid way. Otherwise, like if there is no real like roadblocks, adopting the Azure AD join is the best way,
Yeah,
obviously.
you have my full support and agreement on that, and I've made many a YouTube video on the same topic.
Yes.
Fantastic. So
So I
where do
will.
people get hold of this? I see Dan has put the blog into your website into the chat, but is there a specific blog post that you suggest people take a look at?
This particular thing, I haven't written any blogs on it, but I just had one particular post about it indicating that I would be doing something like this. But to be
Yes.
honest, like I didn't got the time to write it out.
Yeah, sorry, preparing for too many live streams. Apologies for that.
No. So I will quickly pull up the video here, but I'm like I don't know how. Wait. I would
Yeah, let's
need
see how it goes.
to minimize that. And okay, so if it is visible, so this is how the end user experience would be basically going. So this is on a virtual machine that I have taken the video from. This is the time when the device is doing the autopilot check, when you get connected to the device, and if you have in your autopilot profile configured to like skip the language and the region settings, then it directly comes up with the branded sign in page where you do the sign in. Once you do the sign in, it, as I said, it gets the access token. The MDM discovery URL reaches out to Intune, request for the ODJ blob, and once the device gets the offline domain join blob, it reboots to apply that. This is what indicates that the device has received the ODJ blob. After the restart, it will continue with the ESP, where it will track the device targeted policies as usual. So this is plain simple autopilot working, nothing more with it. But then from here, when you come to the login screen and you do the login, is where the solution that I was talking about comes into play. So it does not lets the user get to the desktop, but instead blocks the device to this I would say a fake out of box experience setup screen like this, where it monitors for the backend process to complete, like for the AD connect sync to sync the device. And once the device is synced, the device gets the event ID 306, that is for the successful automatic registration. It restarts the device, the user signs in and gets to the desktop, and that's the whole thing. So from the end user perspective, there is no complexities at all. uh, I would say like this makes it more equal to how Azure AD joint provisioning would go. Like when the user gets to the desktop on the first go, the device is ready. But if we talk about hybrid Azure AD join in a managed domain environment, when the user gets to the desktop on the first go, the device can be ready, may be ready, may not be ready. So it all depends on how the AD connect sync is configured. And if in your environment that sync takes a lot of time to happen, there are other processes or other dependencies, then the user is basically stuck with a desktop without an Azure AD PRT, and that does not help the user experience. So that was all about it.
Fantastic.
I would be like the script package whatever I have deployed in this is currently in production for one of the customers, but once I get some time, I need to do some cleanup, because obviously there are some stuffs that I cannot include in the script that I would be making public. But definitely this solution I will make it public very soon.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. Is that the end of your talk?
Yes, that would be all from my end.
Fantastic. That was really good. In Teams, we would normally say, can everyone give Joy a round of applause? We can't do that today. I mean, you're welcome to clap. We just won't be able to hear you. Maybe in the chat say, there you go. Look, we can hear from there. Those in the room.
Thanks.
Thank you very much. That was fantastic. And, personally, that will certainly help some of the issues I've seen with hybrid autopilot. If you do have to go to hybrid, then yeah, you're going to have to make the best of it, unfortunately. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so next up we have a raffle. I mentioned that if you'd registered or pre-registered before 6:30 today in the UK time, you would be entered into a raffle. And the raffle, there's Andy. He's back. Sega. Although he's back. So
Yeah.
he's going to introduce the prizes that we've got for the raffle. If that's all right, Andy.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. So basically, we're obviously this is a new format for us in terms of how we're delivering this, and we're going to give a £25 voucher, Amazon voucher, randomly. So we're going to pick someone from the list in the raffle, and we've got some new. I don't know if you can see this, but we've got some new stickers that are available now. So we're going to be handing out some stickers, a couple of stickers to people randomly, and others that join the quiz at the end. So a bit of a random thing, but we want to try and promote our channel, obviously, and obviously get you guys more involved. So that's why we created this, and we will be doing some of this going forward.
I don't think you mentioned the merch store, did you? Are we going to cover that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
why not?
In light of trying to produce, get more and more people involved, we've gone ahead and created our own merch store, which has got two themes. We've got the Cloud Management Community logo, one of which is just the logo, and one of which has got the signage underneath it. So you'll see under there we've got male, female, we've got accessories, cases, and the stickers and what have you. So all in different colors, different sizes, cups, hats, etc. So yeah, thanks for sharing that, Dean. Take a look, see if there's anything on there. And we're not making any money on this, so the prices are the best we can get. So by all means, take a look and see what you fancy.
Yeah, thanks for that, Andy. Okay, so well, we're going to do the raffle now. So let's just get stuck into that. So the way we're going to do it is everyone who pre-registered has an order ID, and for each of those order ID, I have. Let me share my screen again. I have put those into an Excel sheet. We'll keep this nice and simple. None of us are techies here. An Excel sheet, and you've got an entrant number and your order ID. So these are real, obviously, order IDs. And so we're going to draw a random number who will win the £25 voucher. And I'll mention the name of the person, or maybe the surname of the person, so you can be aware. Or I might just stick the name in chat if I can't pronounce the surname. But we'll give that a go. So, and we're going to use this nice random integer generator, and so we're going to generate one between 1 and 132. It's 132 people who have registered. So we'll just click get numbers, and this one will be winning the £25 Amazon voucher as a thank you for pre-registering. You might not be here, which is one of the things we haven't quite worked out how to do. But that is Mr. Matthews. So if you're in chat, please say hello. Otherwise, I will be reaching out to you via email to say thank you. And so we have some more. Andy, what was the other things we were giving away? Did you say?
Yeah, so we've got some stickers to give away. So if you want to pick 5 people now, and we'll pick 5 people, other people that join the quiz at the end as well.
All right, so 5. Okay, so I will take a look at those. But these are the people who are going to win some stickers, and they are fantastic stickers. So I'm sure you'll wear them with pride on whatever kit you have, laptops and all that kind of stuff. So that's been drawn, and we've got the sheet which we'll put on the website later on, so you can know that it's been done nice and cleanly. Obviously, no purchase necessary on there at all. That was all a free draw. Fine. So if we have a look at what we've got next, which is yeah. So I think that was it. Thanks, Andy. So essentially, we are going to. How do I unshare my screen? I'll get there eventually. So we are going to move over to the next speaker, who is Katy. Thank you for standing by. But in the meantime, if I can just say thanks to everyone who pre-registered. Obviously, we have another event in 2 weeks' time, which is going to be on September the 28th. And that is by another MVP, Taj LeConte, who is going to be talking about managing RBAC with MEM. So please register. Same deal on the pre-registration. If you do pre-register, you will get entered into the prize draw. So please do that again. That's very good. So Katy, thanks for joining.
All right, no worries.
Good. You're here. Excellent. So you're going to be talking about endpoint analytics, just as a broad topic, or is there a specific bit of it that you're going to be focusing on?
No, it's everything about it really. It's not. I would have liked to do a demo, but I can't really demo endpoint analytics without having a huge test tenancy and some actual data. I can't demo the live tenancy from work really. So it's mostly screenshots with like bits blacked out, but yeah, it'll show you everything about it.
Fantastic. So yeah, whenever you're ready, if you just share your screen and I can make that available. I personally have tried out endpoint analytics, and I personally think it's much better than well, nothing, because that was the previous option. So hopefully we'll see that in a few moments.
So yeah, that should be up now. Yeah.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, so hi, I'm Katy, Microsoft Enterprise Mobility MVP. During the day, I get to play around with Config Manager, Intune, Azure, Hyper-V, and all sorts of things on a school network. I've been there for about 16 years. So that's always lots of fun, lots of different things every day. I normally post technical content on my blog, which is katystech.blog. And on Twitter, I'm at coaster_Katy. So today I'm going to talk through Endpoint Analytics, which is part of MEM, Endpoint Manager. What it is, how do you set it up, why would you want it, and lots of screenshots. So what is Endpoint Analytics? Well, as I said, it's part of Endpoint Manager. You can see various statistics on things like your device performance. The main use I find for this is working out which PCs have problems, like slow boot up or slow login times, which devices crash frequently, whether it's an application crash or a blue screen. And basically, it's quite good for spotting devices where there's something wrong with it, the end user just restarts it, puts up with it, rather than actually telling you. So it's a good proactive way to spot those kind of things. By default, it reports on Intune managed devices, but we can also include Config Manager if we use tenant attach. You need to have EMS, which is the Enterprise Mobility and Security, E3 or E5, or Microsoft 365, E3 or E5, or the academic versions, which are A3, A5. And yeah, so you need the Intune Service Administrator role to set this up. And for viewing the data, you just need read permissions on the Endpoint Analytics organization category, or the helpless operator, or Endpoint Security Manager roles. And if you've got any content filtering or firewall rules in front of your devices, which we always have in education, annoyingly, but yeah, you have to make sure that your devices have access to those endpoints, graph.windows.net and manage.microsoft.com. If you're using Config Manager, otherwise for Intune, it's events.data.microsoft.com. And it lives inside Endpoint Manager Admin Center under Reports and Endpoint Analytics. So once you've opened it, you'll get that introduction screen, which you should be able to see now. You can pick which devices you want to collect data from. All cloud managed devices just creates an Intune data collection profile, which is called Intune Data Collection Policy, automatically assigned to all your devices, which are Windows 10, 1903 or later, but we're going to hope that everybody is on 20H2 or later by now, 21H1 maybe. And that will also include co-managed devices if you've got co-management set up. And I think it also includes the config manager ones if you've got tenant attached without co-management. Selected devices lets you assign them to a group like you would normally through Intune. And if you choose altitude later, you don't get the profile. It just enables proactive remediation. You don't get any analytics reports, and you can come back later and do it again if you want. And it takes a few days to get any data into the system. So once you set it up, have a nice weekend off or something. So if you want to add config manager devices, because by default it's just Intune ones, you just need to set up co-management or tenant attach, which is through the config manager console, administration, cloud services, co-management, and follow the wizard. And on the configure upload tab, you need to tick 2 boxes to upload to MEM Admin Center and enable Endpoint Analytics. So you just need tenant attached for this, so you don't actually have to move any workloads over to Intune to get your config manager devices showing. And if you've got multiple client settings policies and you don't want every single device on there, you can turn on the data collection per computer agent setting policy, client setting policy under the computer agent tab. So the profile it sets up in Intune, if you look through devices and configuration profiles, you'll see the Intune data collection policy profile, and it's applying 2 settings to our devices, which are enabling the health monitoring and scoping it to Endpoint Analytics. The other scope option is Windows updates, but we'll just leave it at the default for now. And the assignments is just the standard Intune assignment screen. So I've just gone with all devices for this, because we want everything on it. You can pick, say, a dynamic device group or something like that if you wanted to. Once you've waited for your data to come in, the overview screen will look a bit like this. And so that was going to give you a score for all devices in scope. You can configure baselines through the settings screen. And these basically just snapshot your tenant's current scores. The default one is all organizations, which is like the aggregated data from every organization on Intune running Endpoint Analytics. So aggregated and anonymized, and you can opt out of having your tenant included in that if you want to. The filter box, so ignore that unless you've got Microsoft Managed Desktop. I don't, so we've just got all devices. It's nothing to do with Intune filters. It's just got the same name, which is confusing. But there we go.
And also, it doesn't have any information about. There's no like tooltip there at all. It just says filter, and then you've got to look up what it's about. Very weird.
Yeah, I can't remember who it was. I had a chat with someone who is involved in the Intune or Endpoint Analytics team at Microsoft to work out that it was actually managed desktops only and nothing to do with the new filters.
Weird.
Okay, so there's some categories shown with the scores, and we've got some recommendations at the side. So I'm going to go through each of the categories, and you'll also see them under reports at the left-hand side. Proactive remediations is slightly different to the rest, as it's more of a doing things than analyzing things, if that makes sense. We'll see when we get there anyway. So startup performance, we've got the overall score, which for this tenant is above the baseline, so that's nice. And then we've got it broken down into boot score and sign-in score. Underneath that, we get to see the average startup times for each phase. So that gives a good idea of what is slowing things down if you've got consistently slow login times across most of your devices. So in this case, you can see group policy takes an average of 20 seconds per device. Not too bad. The average is quite decent for most of that. So if we want to break this down by model, there's a model performance tab at the top. So we might say we've got some 13-year-old machines with old hard drives that take 10 minutes to boot up. They would stick out on that screen. Yeah, you need to be running enterprise or education version of Windows 10. I think it works on Pro, but there's a KB that needs installing. I've not tested it, but I've just heard that it might work on Pro. But Home and the long-term servicing channel or branch, whichever you want to call it, it's not supported on there. And if you've got config manager devices, you need client version 2006 or later. Hopefully by now you're all on 2103 or 07. Is that the most recent one? 07 just came out, I think, didn't it?
Yeah. And this is really good information for the quiz at the end, by the way, everyone. So I hope you are paying attention.
So, so this is the device performance tab. I've skipped the model performance because it's the same, it's just aggregated by model. So here you can see the disk type. So if you've got a model, or in this case, a device with an old hard drive, that would be easily visible. Maybe you've forgotten to upgrade that model, or you've accidentally skipped a PC when you've been upgrading them. You can see the boot time, sign-in time, number of restarts, and number of blue screens in the last 30 days. So if you sort the column by, say, sign-in time descending, like I have done, you'll see that we've got an Optiplex 755, which takes 504 seconds to sign in, which is about 4 minutes? No, 300 seconds is 5 minutes, so it's about...
It's not surprising, though, is it?
8 minutes. Slow.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can tell we're still in education with 755. Yeah, we've got most of those in the skip now, luckily. So there's some 745 as well if you look closely on that that example. Yeah, so it's easy to see what model is being a pain in the neck. If you click on an individual device, you can get the startup performance and application reliability data for that device. So here for whichever device I clicked on, I can't remember when I did this. So we've got the boot and sign-in speed history for, how long is that for? I don't know, a couple of weeks, 3 weeks or so, is it? And which processes are impacting on the startup speed and the history of restarts. The application reliability in preview tab we'll look at a bit later, which will show us the applications which are playing up rather than the boot up process. But it's a good way to see what's slowing things down and if there's a history of that for your specific device.
I think it's also fantastic for, those calls where you get a user calling in saying, my computer's slow, my computer's slower than Jeff around the corner or Linda around the corner. Why is my computer so much slower? And then you can actually just check. You can bring this up and say, well, it's not. You just think it is. It's real analytics and insights that you have your actual, you can get hands-on to really quickly. So it's not just for reporting. I have used it in that scenario where someone complained that their computer was too slow and it really wasn't.
Yeah, you'll find quite a lot through this. You'll get insights and recommendations telling you how slow group policy is, because it's part of MEM, it's part of Intune, and they want you to stop using group policy and move everything to Intune, which is fair enough, but we can't all do that straight away. So startup processes tab is going to say which processes are causing delays, if they're impacting at least 10 devices. The total delay is all the affected devices added together. So in this case, PowerShell looks like it's taking ages, but total delay spread over 275 machines isn't that bad really, and we use a PowerShell logon script, so that slows those down a bit. Restart frequency, which is on the right of the screenshot, is the last month's worth of restarts and what caused them. What have we got there? One blue screen, or 1% of devices with a blue screen, which more than I'd like, but not too bad. Proactive remediations, which is the bit that's not really analytics, it's more proactive remediation. So you can create and run script packages on your devices so you can set these up to detect and repair frequently encountered issues, such as potentially detecting and resolving issues before your users notice them, and cut down on the calls to your help desk. Each one is a pair of scripts. It's a detection script and a remediation script, and they're both in PowerShell. There's a couple of built-in ones, one which restarts the Office click to run service, and one which updates group policy if the last update was over a week ago, which is quite an odd one to include given they don't want you on group policy, but there we go. And you can set up your own scripts to do, well, there's quite a lot of things you can do, which I'll go through in a couple of minutes. You can specify if you want it to be run as a logged on user or as system. And on your devices, the Intune management extension service retrieves the script from Intune and executes them by default once every 24 hours. These can be assigned to all users or all devices or selected groups of users or devices. I'm not sure if filters are on that screen or not, I can't remember. But it's basically the standard Intune assignment screen. You can also pick which frequency you want when you assign them, so once, hourly, or daily. You can specify repeat, such as every 6 hours or every 3 days at 2 AM. And the client devices needs to be Azure AD joined or hybrid joined, but we don't like hybrid join, or licensed with Windows 10, Enterprise, or Education E3, E5, A3, A5. Virtual desktop access, E3 or E5. I don't know if it'll work on Windows 10 Pro. I would have thought it would if you've got EMS, E3 or E5. Yeah.
I think EMS, I would have assumed you would need M365 or something, E3 or E5, because it would include that Windows 10 line, which was the key.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I hope that's true anyway, because there's a question about that in the quiz. So.
Okay. I'm not 100% sure, but if you've got Enterprise, then it works. Yeah. So this is the sample one, which is the group policies one. So you get a detection script and a remediation script. So this detection script, basically you use an exit code to say whether you want to remediate this thing or not. So here, if the last GP update was more than a week ago, we return 1, and the device will run the remediation script. If we return 0, it won't. And the match or no match, I'm not sure what they are. I think it's if you're using this through Config Manager. I've not really looked into that. All the scripts I've written, I just use the exit code. And remediation script, exit code 0 if it's worked, otherwise exit code 1 if it's not worked, and it will try again. So from the console, you'll be able to see an overview of how many devices have no issues, or if there's issues found, in which case the remediation scripts will run, and if any have failed, you can view the status for each device and get detailed output from each of your scripts. So anything you've output with write host or write output in your PowerShell script will appear in the console. There's a limit on size to this, so don't be too noisy in your scripts. It is, I think I've got that on the next slide, I can't remember off the top of my head. And a more recent addition is you can export that output to CSV and have a look at it offline, maybe look at some trends and things. So a few examples, the two built-in ones which I've already mentioned. One I use is mapping printers on Azure AD joined devices. One which I've seen recently, and I think someone's mentioned in the chat, is updating BIOS settings on your devices where you can do that through script, like Lenovo's or HP's, probably Dell's as well. A few others I've seen are checking when the computer last restarted and prompt to the user to give it a restart if it's been a while. As it's just PowerShell running on the end user device, you can pull up toast notifications and Windows forms and all sorts. Maybe detect duplicate desktop shortcuts and get rid of them, that kind of thing. So there's quite a lot of things we can use it for. Here's the maximum output, yeah. So when you write your scripts, there needs to be an UTF-8 encoding, and the maximum output you can see in the console is 2K, sorry, 2048 characters. So don't be too noisy with your scripts. You can enforce signature checks or not. If you enforce them, the script needs to be signed. The certificate needs to be in the device's trusted publisher's cert store, and it will run as the device's PowerShell execution policy, which is restricted on Windows 10. If you don't enforce them, it runs under bypass. The built-in ones are already signed, and the certificates are already in trusted publishers because they're just the Microsoft ones. So they're ready to go. If you need to run your scripts in 64-bit PowerShell, there's a tick box or a toggle for this when you make the script package. And skip the recommended software report on the side because it's being replaced soon with work from anywhere. So this is a few score categories and percentage of our devices in each of them. So you can see your level of Windows 10 adoption, cloud identity, which is devices registered in Azure AD, cloud management, which is devices managed by Endpoint Manager, and cloud provisioning, which is devices enrolled in Autopilot. And you'll get a few insights and recommendations. I don't on this, because this is from a different tenancy, but on my other tenancy, the bottom of the screen is just full of nags about you're not using Intune enough, move everything to the cloud. And it's probably not the most useful part of Endpoint Analytics, but maybe one day underneath Windows 10, we'll see Windows 11 appear and get sort of a deployment progress there. Who knows, hopefully. And then on to application reliability, which is currently in preview. Hopefully that's going to go GA soon, because it's been in preview for ages, in public preview. So it gives you an insight into what's causing problems, which applications are causing problems for your end users. So the first screen will give you an overall app reliability score across all the devices on your tenant. You'll also see the top apps reducing productivity. The data is based on the past 14 days. And if you click on the app name, it will give us some more detailed information. And the reliability for each application is the relative reliability of that application in your Azure tenant. So it's calculated from the mean time to failure and total usage duration values. So 0 is an absolutely rubbish app and 100 is a really reliable one. And as I said earlier, config manager client 2006 or later. So if you click onto the app performance tab, we get the full list of applications. So that is foreground applications with a decent amount of usage. There's no specific definition, but it's basically applications with more than 5 devices or more than 2% of the device count. And when it's calculating crash scores, etc., a maximum of 10 crash events are used per application per device per day to stop really, really poor devices from skewing the overall scores. So that is, as I said, applications in use in the last 14 days, how many devices they were on, total usage in the last 14 days, total crashes in the last 14 days, and the mean time to failure, along with the app reliability score. And if you click on an app, it will open up a window showing which version is causing the issue, which is sort of the bit in the blue square at the bottom, and which operating system version you're using. So you could work out if the problem is a specific version of, what have we got here, Minecraft Education. Is it a specific version that's got a problem? Or is it a specific Windows version with that specific version on it? So you can figure out which it is really through there, and work out which, whether you need to roll back the application version or roll back the Windows version or whatever. And as we saw on the startup performance area, the model and device performance tabs, they're basically the same. One's grouped by model, the other is all your devices. So this is device performance screen. And again, the data is from the last 14 days. And if you click on device name, you'll get the individual app data. And yeah, this one's only had one crash. I could probably have found one of those old Optiplex 755s, which with hundreds of crashes. This one's just had Photoshop crash once. It's not restricted to the last 14 days, so it will show you quite a bit of history. And the filter there is to pick what date you want. It won't show you the version of the crashed app, but you can still see what's crashing frequently. Then baselines, which is through the settings screen, as I mentioned at the start. The built-in one shows typical enterprise, which is it's generated from scores from all enrolled organizations, anonymized and aggregated. And there's an opt-out button in settings if you don't want to be included. And if you create new, it will copy your current scores to the new baseline. So in this case, I did one before we updated to 21H1. And you'll then be able to say, a couple of months later, have a look and see if your scores have dropped or improved since you did that specific update. If they dropped, it'll show up in red as regressed. If you've dropped 10% below the threshold, and you can change that to threshold at the bottom on that slider. You can have 20 baselines per tenancy, but just delete your old ones if you run out. There's a few issues with application reliability, but they only really affect config manager devices. they're quite rare as well. So first, some devices might fail to upload the data. So that's usually where the data generated on the client is so large that on the daily upload, it's rejected by the server for being too big. And if the following day the device generates less data, it will return to successfully uploading. So you basically just skip a day's data. And it's only on devices running on Config Manager 2010 or older. There's a fix in one of the update rollups. So hopefully everyone's running newer than 2010. And there's a really rare one where devices don't appear in the report because they've not downloaded the Service Certificate policy. There's a script to fix this on the Microsoft Docs. It's rare, and it's more likely your devices don't meet the prerequisites or haven't been on long enough to gather data. And moving on finally to troubleshooting co-managed devices. So your Intune managed devices are unlikely to cause any issues. All they really need is access to events.data.microsoft.com. And the co-managed devices or things through Config Manager tenant attach. We've got the UX Analytics Upload Worker.log on the site server. I've not got one with any errors to show what it looks like, but it should be full of successful web requests. Which you can see in that screenshot if it's big enough. So if you've got failures, I'd expect it to say what the endpoint is. And in the case of these successful ones, it's eu.gateway.configmanager.manage.microsoft.com. So when you look at firewall rules and allowing access to the endpoints, you really do need to watch for the wildcard for that domain. And you need to make sure you've definitely enabled the data upload in the co-management settings or the client settings. There's a couple of client logs which are in the usual location, C Windows CCM logs. We've got sensor endpoint.log, which will show any issues with a device uploading data to the Config Manager site server. And sensor managed provider.log will check for problems processing boot events. And finally, don't forget your devices all need a restart to fully enable Endpoint Analytics once you've set it up. And it takes a few days for the data to appear. And hopefully you're all still awake, but we're to the end now. There's some Windows 365 Cloud PC integration in Endpoint Analytics. There's a couple of reports which are in preview. I didn't manage to grab the screenshot when I had a trial of Windows 365, unfortunately. But yeah, there's a couple of reports for that. So I hope you found it interesting and useful. If it's time at the end for questions, that's fine by me.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much. I've put everyone else back on the screen. I'm going to put your blog link. I've lost it. I had it right there and it's gone. It was Katy's tech.blog, wasn't it?
Yes.
Katy's tech.blog. No, that's fantastic. I personally think Endpoint Analytics, as I say, is a fantastic insight into what you've got in your environment. And the alternative before that was, nothing on hand. It was you had to do reports and scripts and all that kind of stuff to get at the details that were in Intune, I think. Whereas now they're sort of put on a screen in front of you at a dashboard you can just click on. Before Endpoint Analytics, it was a bit more ropey. Am I right there? Or
yeah, I've not really. I can't remember it before there was Endpoint Analytics. To be honest, we've not really used. I'm quite new to Intune, so I'm just used to doing everything through Config Manager. But yeah, it's definitely useful.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, thank you very much for that. That was brilliant. Very good use of a screenshot as well. That did actually convey what you were trying to say, so that was really good. And you didn't have any of the risk of a live demo, so you've done that really well. Well done. Okay, fantastic. If there's any questions for Katy, please do throw them into the chat, and we will get to them. Katy, if you're happy to stick around, that would be great. Sorry, Joe, I keep unticking you. Sorry, you are still there. Thanks for sticking around. Okay, great. So the next thing we're going to do, if I just get my slides back, is our quiz. So if you've been hanging around, thanks very much for doing that. We have the quiz. And Andy, do you want to introduce what the prizes are for this? I think we've discussed that.
Yeah, so we're going to have a £25 voucher, plus we're going to give away some stickers as well to the 5 people randomly. So we'll have to collect details at the end, but yeah, we're going to get 5 people overall.
Not randomly. Surely we're going to do the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th place or something, because otherwise it's just the winner.
Oh, sorry. For the stickers, we're going to pick them randomly, but we're going to get, yeah. So
yeah. First place will be 25. First place in the quiz is £25 Amazon voucher or equivalent if we have international guests, and then stickers as well for 2nd, 3rd, and 4th. But we will be picking some random names from those who have joined, who have pre-registered to.
Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, so let me just take over my next screen. So, like I mentioned a little while ago, I turn that screen on. We have another event coming up in a couple of weeks' time, which means we've changed this. I keep getting messages from Restream, and it takes over my whole screen. So apologies for stuttering. It takes. We've taken this from a monthly event to a 2 weekly event, so every couple of weeks. So the 28th of September is our next event. So please do take a look at that event sign up page. It is just at the top there. But if I switch that on, you should be able to see the link there. So please do register for that event. Obviously, you get the same benefits if you do. You get the raffle entry, but it's just brilliant to know how many people are going to turn up and what kind of interest we've got in the speaker. In this case, it's Thijs LeConte, who is going to be talking about RBAC with MEM. So please do look forward to that. So next is the quiz. Quick shout out to our friends at Recast Software, though. So they are holding an event on the 23rd of September to introduce their Endpoint Analytics tool. Sorry, Endpoint Insights tool. I'm getting mixed up with Microsoft. And they're going to run this webinar covering that tool. And essentially, they're giving away a trip to MMS in Miami for, I think it's, you sign up to the webinar and you get a chance to win. I thought that was a fantastic giveaway, and it's in line with what we're doing here. Recast is fantastic people to Recast, so please take a look at that. I'll stick that link into chat as well. But obviously we've got our sponsor, Policy Pack, who are essentially funding the prizes here, so thank you to them as well. Right, I'm going to just drop my screen while I start the quiz. If you're interested in joining the quiz, go to menti.com. I'll just put that on the screen now. So if you go to menti.com and then tap in the code, which is 58967575. Get a few people joining. The speakers, by the way, you are welcome to attend. Join the quiz if you like. Obviously, Joy and Katy, you probably have a bit of a advantage because they're related to Hybrid Autopilot and Endpoint Analytics. But there you go. Please do feel free to join. We'll give it a little while for people to join because I have just sprung this on you and you weren't aware that we were going to use menti.com. So please do jump in and give it a few more seconds. So this is a fastest finger first quiz, and it's going to be interesting because we're doing a live stream rather than a Teams event, and there's actually a slight delay in what I see on my screen to what you see on the stream. So it will be interesting to see how that works. In fact, actually, let me just say, if you're on the live with me today, so Katy and Joy and the team, you will have a massive advantage if you were to take part. So please don't take part, because you will see it about 3 seconds before the rest of the world. So please don't take part. My bad. Good. So yeah, let's see. We've got 13 people. One of them just dropped out. Maybe that was Katy or Joy. Okay. So as Andy mentioned, the top prize is the £25 Amazon voucher. Okay, we're going to start in a few seconds. Oh, one more jumped in. As I say, fastest finger first, and there are 9 questions related to Hybrid Autopilot, Endpoint Manager, and the surrounded topics. So let's see how that goes. I will read the question out, and you have a few seconds to digest the question before the answers come up, and then you have to answer the question. So, okay, we're going to go. Which of these is not a deployment mode in Windows Autopilot? Given quite a long time for people to answer because of that delay, but getting the answers in quite quickly, to be honest, so that's quite good. One more answer coming in. Someone really not sure. There you go. Oh, no, maybe we've got 15 people. Okay, so the answer there was kiosk. Well done, everyone, for doing that. Obviously, self-deploying is how you would deploy a kiosk, but yeah, the answer was kiosk. So let's take a look at the leaderboard. I'll skip through the leaderboard quite quickly for the start, because it's quite clear that was very, very tight. So next question. UBI stands for. What's the full version of UBI? Is that only one box ever, out of blue everywhere, or out of box experience? Someone hasn't answered still. We missed the answer there, but that was clearly out of box experience, and everyone got that right. Well done, everyone. Joy up front. How is Autopilot White Glove initiated from within UBI? Staring at the screen intently, pressing Ctrl-Alt-Delete, wiggling the mouse vigorously, or pressing the Windows key 5 times. Well done, everyone. They do get harder, I promise. But depending on how fast you can read, I think that also helps. Okay, so we have, very close at the top. Next question, question 4. In which version of Windows 10 did user-driven mode with hybrid Azure AD join become available? And there's a list of numbers. I told you they got harder. Close one. Okay, so let's see what that's done to the leaderboard. Only a few questions left, I promise. Eric, very close to Andres and Eric there. Getting tight at the top. Question 5. Delivery optimization helps save bandwidth during download, ship the device to the user quickly, or reduce the number of apps that get installed. Yep. So the majority of you got that right. Save bandwidth during download. See how quickly people got that right. When did Endpoint Analytics become generally available? Is that August 2021, September 2020, or October 2019? Very good. Majority of you, well done. Let's see what this has done to the leaderboard. And it's such a slow animation. Okay, so Eric is freaking ahead. Well done, Eric. Okay, 7th question. You can enroll devices into Endpoint Analytics using only Config Manager, only Intune, or Config Manager and or Intune. Hopefully you were listening. Someone wasn't listening to Katy, but there you go. Thank you for that. Okay, let's see what this has done. Very, very tight at the top. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is apologize for the next question. If it is the last question. Is it the last question? Let's see, it's question 8 or 9. Okay, the last question's tough. So let's do this one, and then I'll apologize for the last question in a few seconds. Which of these is not a valid license for Endpoint Analytics? Is that 10 Enterprise E3, 10 Enterprise E5, 10 Pro, Virtual Desktop Access per User, or Education E3? Oh, the last one is empty, but hopefully I didn't get that wrong. Ooh, there you go. Good. So that was everyone was right, apart from 4 people there. Well done, everyone who got that. So once again, apologies for the last question. See what we've done in the leaderboard. Look at that, all change at the top. Okay, so last question. Here we go. You need to type your answer to this question. What is the name of our sponsor for today's event? Correct spelling only. Five seconds for the remaining few who are furiously typing and pressing backspace on a phone. Apologies. Okay, so the answer obviously was Policy Pack, but there you go. So a few random answers. Thankfully, no one put any rude words in there. Dean Allaby, I like that. Well done. Very good. So lots of answers for Policy Pack. Very good. Let's see what that's done to the leaderboard. So correct answer score, maximum points. Wow. Okay. Eric, congratulations, Eric. You have you got the £25 voucher there, and the remaining people in that will hopefully get a set of stickers. Andy, hopefully, we'll maybe discuss that offline. Good. Okay, so that was really good. As I say, please do. How do I change my screen again? Please do follow us on Twitter subscribe to the channel. If you've been following us on YouTube tonight, then yes, please subscribe to the channel. We're going to do this every couple of weeks. And yeah, it's been fantastic having you all around. Please stick around if you want to chat with Katy or Joy or any of the team. But thank you so much for taking part. Any questions from any of the team? Any comments? No, all good.
No,
there we are.
All good. Thanks very much, everyone.
Just a great couple of sessions. Yeah, really good.
Yeah,
learned a lot from that one. Thank you.
Indeed. So Eric, if you can tweet me or tweet the tweet at where is it? Tweet that, not tweet. Message me on a DM with that user. I will. I'll get back to you. Oh, well, actually, the rest of you. How am I going to get the stickers? The rest of you. Oh dear. The rest of you all tweet. Not tweet. What do you call it? DM that user.
Yeah.
If you can, so you can get your stickers. Very good. Well, this is a really weird bit at the end, isn't it? Because there's a load of chat coming in, but I'm just sat here talking to myself. But yeah. Good. So, what the next session we've got with Taj is obviously going to be a little bit shorter. We've only got one speaker, but I'm really looking forward to that. And that was submitted a few months ago now, but we've tried to squeeze it in. But yeah, that looks really good. So it's managing RBAC in MEM. So it'll be really interesting to see another security related topic come on that. And then we're gonna we've got every couple of weeks. So we've got some fantastic guests lined up. Following that, I do know who they are, but I'm just not going to say them just yet because we haven't got them confirmed for those dates. But yeah, that's looking really exciting.
And also, we need to, if anybody feels that they want to submit a session and actually present on here, then yeah, please get in touch.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, we've got the Sessionize page, which I haven't got as a link to give, but just as you say, just reach out, and we can definitely get you scheduled in. And actually, I forgot to mention at the start there, Joy, that was your first, as you said, that was your first presentation in public. Well done. That was fantastic. You mentioned right at the start, just before we went on air, you said you had 3 slides, and I almost cried. But those 3 slides were fantastic, right? Those were, building to a fantastic demonstration of how that all works. So yeah, that was really, really good. Thank you very much.
David's raised a question about why the move from Meetup. So David, that was, we're trying to save some costs, but also we're using some new technology which allows us to kind of stream across different platforms. But if we're able to save money, then we can give more money for prizes as well. So there's some double benefit there. So that was kind of the main reason.
Yeah, I mean, it was £120 for the standard meetup, and really, Eventbrite has allowed us, allowed all the people who registered to get access to this event. And actually, Eventbrite will help us move towards a more hybrid approach if we do want to go live in person in the future. If that ever becomes safe and popular, then we'll do that, and then maybe we can have a physical presence and still that live presence, because we've got so many people who join from various parts of the UK and the world, so it would be a shame. And Eventbrite does allow you to have 2 different ticket types, so that would be interesting to move to. And Meetup just was far too much of a closed ecosystem for us, so we moved away from it. Mm-hmm. Good question though. And as I mentioned before, this will be obviously recorded. It's on YouTube. It'll just go straight into the recordings for you to enjoy later if you've missed any of the sessions, or if you want to go back and see any of the stuff that Katy or Joy were talking about, then you'll be able to see that. And please share it with who you think might be interested as well. Good. I think we're going to leave it there because it's quite late, and we said we'd finish at 8:30, and that is fantastic timing. So thanks everyone for joining. I'd be interested to see how many people joined on Twitter and LinkedIn, but we'll have a look at that and tweet some of the analytics we got, so we know how many people did join, whether we're going to do that in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for joining in, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Great. Thanks very much, everyone.